What up, what up, what up? I'm Zach the TV, and I created a tool for theory crafting, and I want to walk you through how to use it. Now, what is this tool? This tool is this monstrosity of a thing. This is what I would call a stat calculator. It tells you what your HPS would be, or your increased HPS would be per stat. Now, why did I create this? I created it because I couldn't find this information literally anywhere, and everyone in the channels just stated things that didn't pass the sniff test, like haste being the best stat for healing. The reason that this didn't make any sense to me is that if we go back into game here, abilities like Soothing Daylight do not benefit from haste at all, but they do benefit from things like magic power. And nobody could give me an exact stat weight. So this didn't sit well with me. So what did I do? I created a calculator so that we could fix this issue. Now, how does this calculator work? This calculator works by changing these two fields, the percent overall healing and the ticks. And by ticks I mean instance of healing, and it would be the average. So how would you fill this out? So you'd go back into game, you go over to your combat stats, which is just a meter. You go down to, so when you're choosing this, you go to total, you go to healing, and you choose yourself, and it has a breakdown. This breakdown has percentages. You want to use these. In fact, I've already plugged them in. As you can see, they're all right here. What does this mean? This means Sun Mirrors healed for 5% of my total healing. Healing Mist did 40%. Healing Light did 22%. Floral Cloak did 7%. And so on and so forth. Blazing Sun is a really good cooldown. I didn't use it once. So using this playstyle, which was just a random PvP that I did that with bots, what can we get from this? What we can get from this, that if we do this exact scenario over again, we can get stat weights, which are these things right here, to figure out what stats would be best going into this exact scenario again. And that's all fine and dandy, but how would we use these? Well, the way that you would use them is that you'd go back into game, and we'll just use the combination tool because it's very easy to get two pieces of item. These two items have stats on them. You would take the stats from each of these, and then we'll go back to the spreadsheet, and depending on your breakpoint, that would determine what stats you would use. You would multiply them by this. So if you had less than 17% haste, which is 230% haste, or 230 total haste, you would use these stat weights for this playing style up here. You would gain 0 HPS from any amount of haste that you'd use. You would gain 0.055 mastery. Okay, so we would go back over here and we can see that these two items have haste, healing effect, mastery, and wisdom. Wisdom is just the same as healing effect, but 70% weaker. And the way that the math actually pans out is that pretty much any amount of wisdom or any amount of healing effect is going to vastly outweigh any of your secondary stats. So when it comes to creating a best in slot list for practical use, as you can see, some things in here do have haste, even though we know from our stat weights that haste isn't very good. They have healing effect, and healing effect is worth more than all of our secondaries, so you want to go for each one of those. So you are going to have a fair amount of haste in this build. You're going to have 21.42%. So if you had this exact same setup, how would you use that in this? Well, you meet the 17% marker, but you don't meet the 25%. So then these are your stat weights. So when you're judging stats, you would use all of these. And you would multiply the stats on your gear by these stat weights. And one thing that I also forgot to mention was, what are ticks? How do you use ticks? Well, the way that you use ticks is you go back into the game and you click on yourself, and it further breaks everything down. You can see Healing Light had an average value of 221. That's every instance of healing that it did had an average healing of 221. So when we go back into the menu, or back into the spreadsheet, that's where this comes in. So you can see Healing Light 221. That's where I put that in. So I hope that this clarified how to use this. I will have this linked in the description below. And what I would like from this community that watches this is to go through this if you want to. And in the comments below, tell me where I've gone wrong. Tell me what's inaccurate in this. This isn't the perfect system. It's probably not 100% right. In fact, that in this video I described to you how, in one way, I know it's not 100% right. But it seems to be good enough to make judgments off of. And if you guys can tear this apart and tell me where it's wrong, then it will only get better from there. And I realize that this was a little bit of a ranty video, but I appreciate you guys making it to the end. And have a great night.